If you've heard of Seaman, you probably know at least this. It is a weird game. One of the weirdest games ever, you could argue, and its uniqueness is pervasive throughout the box it was packaged in, with a manual that takes an immersive, alternate history approach to Seaman lore, and a microphone to talk to your Seaman as you care for him through the game. We can see right away that we're in for something different here because Dreamcast games typically came in jewel cases, but this one's in a cardboard box, and the top of it says microphone included. And that's not to mention the obviously strange cover art. Is this a street sign, and why does this apparently amphibious creature have a human face? When we flip it over, we see that the amphibious creature has a human face because that's what Seaman looks like. And then we see this caption that reads, "On being weird. Sorry, I'm a little bit different, Valley Girl." What? If we do some more reading, we learn that Seaman is apparently some sort of intelligent creature that we're going to be watching, caring for, and even talking with. At the top, we learn that we're going to start with a Seaman egg and then follow in the footsteps of someone named Dr. Gasse. You know what, I'm in. Inside the box, there's the game. There's instructions on using the microphone. And there's the microphone itself, which is in two parts. These mics had a foam pop filter covering the input piece, but sometime in the past 6 years that I've owned this copy, mine pretty much disintegrated. When I opened this to prepare for this video, about half of it was in a million tiny little fuzzy specks and stuck all over everything. It was actually kind of gross. The microphone just plugs into a Dreamcast controller like this. And while you're playing, you hold A to activate it when you want to talk to Seaman. Here's the jewel case for the game. The disc is similar to the cover. And underneath, we get a picture of a Seaman. And then we have the manual, which continues the weirdness. The first page congratulates you on buying your Vivarium Seaman kit, Vivarium being the fictional company that you bought this Seaman egg from. It has a little history about Seaman and the discovery of the species, and at the end a sort of dark note about Vivarium's role in introducing Seaman to the modern world. The manual notes that when the species' existence was confirmed by the scientific community, Vivarium paid for its research in exchange for sole distribution rights of Seaman. Kind of sinister considering we're talking about an intelligent species. We get a tiny taste of the strangeness you're going to experience here also, as the write-up tells us, it is well known that as part of its genetic labeling, Seaman passes knowledge on to subsequent human generations orally. The next page has a more extensive history of Seaman, focusing on Dr. Jean-Paul Gasse, the scientist who originally discovered the Seaman, but who was shunned by other scientists as his claims were considered to be fabricated because the Seaman he found quickly died in his laboratory. And here we get that alternate history I mentioned. Dr. Gasse's hypothesis suggested that Seaman was perhaps responsible for transferring knowledge that proliferated during the Third Dynasty across oceans to other lands. It also tells us, for further details, kindly refer to www.meetseaman.com. This domain has long been abandoned, but it's a yet more in-depth history of Seaman's discovery. Even the instructions for the game continue with these immersive qualities of the manual, as it reminds you that you're about to be responsible for a living, breathing creature, and advises you to make sure you're mentally prepared for the task. It even tells you should stretch or exercise if you start feeling overly stressed about it. Then we have a couple pages of actual game instructions, followed by this mental preparation section, which tells you that you have to give your Seaman affection on a daily basis, and that this game is a slow burn, but that if you play it properly and patiently, quote, you will experience a grand drama, the likes of which have yet been rendered possible by even the most realistic of computer or console games. Then we have a bunch more instructions which are actually genuinely important for this game. Seaman is pretty difficult to just figure out on your own, so reading the manual here is really helpful. This final notes and pointers page really gives you some insight into how unique this game is, if that wasn't clear already. It explains that you'll eventually be able to converse with Seaman rather than just speak commands to him. It tells you you'll eventually get to give it a name, and it has this one ominous sounding warning. Seaman is an honest and decent living creature who will ask you numerous questions. Please answer as truthfully as possible and never, ever lie. And we close with a page about wildlife preservation, and in the back we have perhaps the only traditional thing about the whole game, a page for notes. Man, just reading through this manual is an experience. I'm going to say it again because it's the best way to describe it. Seaman is a weird game, but it's not just weird. It's also ambitious and even visionary. I've attempted one playthrough of it, and while it's not the kind of thing I like to play, I absolutely admire everything about it, and it is so unique as a complete in-box product.